So my talk title this morning is Divine Motherhood. And of course, we want to celebrate all mothers and that love that comes through in motherhood today. And so that's the reason we passed out the roses. And thank you, Mike Clolly, for braving Costco to get our roses for you this morning. Mother's Day is a special day. It invites us to pause and honor the extraordinary spirit of motherhood. And I have to admit, last week I told y'all that I was a little bit odd. And I know that being a minister, I think probably you're supposed to be able to write a Mother's Day talk fairly easily. But it's kind of a challenge for me. I have to be honest about my experience, but I also want to make sure that it's uplifting and celebrating mothers everywhere. Because if I've learned anything on my journey, it's that we come to this day with our own unique stories, and some filled with tenderness and love that defies explanation. And there's others that have a little bit more complexity to them. And so we want to honor all of it. You know, Joseph Campbell, he's an amazing scholar. If you haven't ever heard of him, look him up on YouTube. He's really a fascinating guy. He said he was convinced that humanity first started thinking about the idea of God when it heard the thunder crash across the sky. Well, that may be true or not. I wasn't there. But I think the idea of a loving God began to take shape when humanity witnessed how far moms would go to protect and nurture their children. To me, this is a miracle that defies explanation. You can't work this out with evolution. There's something extraordinary happening with this. Moms will give up sleep, a lot of sleep. They'll give up health, time. They'll give up careers. They'll give up dreams to make sure their children are safe and fed and loved. They're the first ones to answer the cries in the night, the first one to cheer from the sidelines, the first to forgive, and the last to give up hope. And Science of Mind, the founder of our teaching, Dr. Holmes, he said, we must know that the infinite spirit is always acting through us for good. We are but vessels through which love flows into the world. And this is our most important job we have here. You are a channel for God's love, support, and encouragement for yourself and those around you. This is what will make you feel loved and important, needed, and necessary. Because you are needed and necessary. And in this world now more than ever. And I don't think there's a greater example of that divine flow than in mother's love. Now, as I mentioned, my own experience of mom's love doesn't really reflect that storybook ideal. While some of you may have come home from school with a little plate of cookies and milk waiting for you, my after-school experience was a little bit more different. More often than not, I would be met with a request for a light Jack and Coke and half a Valium. My mom believed that a half a Valium was a sign of sophistication. For her, it was like having a watercress sandwich for afternoon tea. She thought, as long as you just had a half a Valium, that really, showed you had training and sophistication. Now, to be honest, my mom really didn't believe that emotional nurturing was that helpful. Life had been so harsh and tough for her that I think she thought the kindest thing she could do was to raise her kids up with enough emotional armor that they wouldn't go out into the world with false expectations, that the world would be kind, fair, loving. I think that was her goal. But here's the one thing my mom did do, and it was extraordinary. She taught me an extraordinary lesson, and that was that people can change dramatically, that you can make a change in your life. You can reinvent yourself. And you get to decide what that reinvention looks like. You don't have to listen to the world. You can come into your own. And she did just that. And that's a challenge that I see a lot of people as they go through life. They're not willing to make a change. They're not willing to evolve. Now, while my dad was alive, he transitioned when he was around 13. When I was 13, my mom was what I would call the perfect Church of God mama. She was rather severe. She wore her hair piled up on the top of her head, much like Marge Simpson. That was her hairdo. She had a little wiglet that she would have them add to the top of it to give her extra height. Now, after Dad died, within 18 months, she completely changed everything. She went from Church of God mama to honky-tonk mama. And her greatest loves became Conway Twitty. If you've never heard of him, look him up. His backup singers were called the Twitty Birds. I would have gladly hunted them all down and shot them if I could have. And of course, Jack Daniels. She developed a love for both of those guys. And you know what? She was a lot easier to live with. She really was. She laughed. She lived. She was fun. So I kind of grew up skeptical of the whole motherhood thing. I thought it was like just something you saw on television. To me, it was like those soap opera scenes, you know, at Christmas time, the soap operas at some point, they'll all have the families gathering around the piano and singing Christmas carol songs. I never knew anybody that did that. So for me, I thought motherhood was the same thing. It was just something they had on television. It wasn't until later in my life that I saw examples of how profound mom's love could be, how much they could encourage and support, how infinitely patient and profoundly selfless they could be. One of my first experiences came from a roommate I had when I was in Washington, D.C. His mom was unwavering in her support. Every phone call, every visit, she did everything she could to uplift and encourage, to let him know that he was loved beyond measure. It was eye-opening for me. It was eye-opening to see this expression I had not had. And at first, it made me angry. I kind of hate to own up to that because that's a small emotion. I can remember one time I was helping him move from D.C. to Boston, and we stayed over at his parents' house in Connecticut. And they had this big, huge mansion, really. And that night, after everyone had gone to sleep, she had gone into his bedroom to have a talk with him. And I could hear them talking from the next room. Now, he had just gotten a job as a venture capitalist. He was actually going to Boston to work with Mitt Romney. This was well before he went into politics. And so this was an amazing opportunity for him. It was a huge opportunity. And at one point of the conversation, she looked over to him and she told him, she said, "You know, they are so lucky to have you. They're so lucky to have you." He knew it was a lie. She knew it was a lie. But the emotional support was tremendous. And with that kind of boost, it had him go up and deal with venture capitalists and Mitt Romney and to go on and be a huge business success. We need that kind of support. And like I said, it made me mad at first, but now I've come to a part of my life. I look for it. I am so grateful when I see it. It feeds my heart and soul to see mother's love, to see parental love. it's such a blessing to me. And I've seen it in my own family. My niece, she has an 11-year-old. And I watch her with awe, with her infinitely being patient with him, guiding and protecting and loving with a devotion that seems to have no limits. And here's the remarkable thing about that. She had no example of that in her childhood. I knew her, I'm related to her mom. I knew it. I knew the situation. There was none of that in her childhood. So where did it come from? What wellspring was she drawing from? It had to come from God. It has to come from Spirit. It has to come from something deeper, something eternal. In the Hindu text, they say, Spirit says, I'm the source of all beings. I am the mother and the father. And that reminds us that the qualities that we associate with good mothering, patience and nurturing, forgiveness, unconditional love, are not personal traits. They are reflections of divine qualities, living and breathing through us, through you, through me. When we choose to let go of our small ego, when we choose to step up and to be that channel of love right where we are, right as we are. We don't have to wait till we get all perfect to be a source of divine love. You were called by name to be here right where you are, to be that loving source, that kindness, that compassion, and you're needed and you're necessary. Dr. Holmes, he says there's a power for good in the universe greater than we are, and it is wanting us to use it. It's wanting us to be channels of it. Now, when people have near-death experiences, one of the things they come back and say, they say that they cannot overcome the feeling of love they feel from Spirit. The feeling of love. You are loved. And Spirit wants to awe you with how much you're loved. Spirit wants to awe you with how much good you can do, how much compassion you can bring, how much you can uplift and inspire and encourage. So today we celebrate that power that expresses itself in the form of motherhood. And not just with biological mothers, but with all who nurture and protect, grandmothers, aunts. For me, it was mainly teachers. Teachers played a huge role in my life, encouraging and supporting. But it also can be neighbors and friends. Each of us carries within us that impulse to nurture and support. I was on a plane back from D.C. this week, and it was coming back on Friday afternoon, and it was completely packed. There was not an empty seat anywhere. And they had squeezed us on that plane like the last train out of Moscow. I mean, they had wedged us in there. The very last thing before they closed the door was a mom came on with 3 kids, one in her arms and 2 little guys. I guess the oldest was maybe like 9. The next one, he was probably like 5, and then she had a baby in her arms. And because they had booked it at the last, they had 3 middle seats in different aisles. So it meant that next to me was a little 9-year-old, and he was trying to be brave for his mom because he knew what she was going through. So he sat down next to me, and the guy in the window seat, he was business guy. You could kind of tell. He was flying all the time. He had the flying down, the routine. He had everything set up, for him to make this trip easily. And so this little guy sat down. The mom was 2 rows up in front, so she couldn't really check to see what was going on with him. And I noticed how at different times, both he and I, we looked after the little guy. There were times that he needed something. He needed the tray brought down. He got upset because his boarding pass fell down. And at different times, buckling his seat, both me and the business guy, we helped him out. Well, that is universal love showing up. That is the love of Spirit showing up. I've heard social scientists say that the most convincing evidence that there is a powerful love in the universe is when strangers will risk their own lives to save another stranger. The example they gave was a police officer. He was in Boston. He had gone to one of the bridges. There was a guy that was wanting to commit suicide, and he was on the outside of the bridge. They had the police officer harnessed to a tether, and he's talking to the guy wanting to commit suicide, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the conversation, the guy leaps to fall. And when he does, the police officer leaps as well to grab him. And they both were saved. Afterwards, the reporters asked, "What were you doing? You risked your own life to save this guy. What were you thinking?" And he said, "In my mind, I thought if he died, I couldn't go on. I wouldn't survive if he didn't survive." We are connected. You're not on this journey alone. I was in D.C. this week, and I had gone to the Smithsonian, and they have a big exhibit of Harriet Tubman. And they talk about her being the Moses of her people. And I think in some ways she was more the mother of her people. She led hundreds of enslaved people to freedom, and they had a huge bounty on her head. Every time she went to the South to rescue people, it was life or death for her. They would have loved nothing more than to have gotten their hands on her. But she led them, she sheltered them, she fed them, and she fought for them, for their freedom, and with fierce devotion. Her spirit is the living embodiment of that divine mothering force. We also have to remember that love isn't always about kissing boo-boos. She wore two guns, 2 revolvers around her chest. And she said one revolver was for the slave owners chasing after them. She said, but the other revolver was to keep the people seeking freedom to know that they had to keep on going. Because sometimes when the trail got too hard, when it got too difficult, they wanted to turn back. But she was there to let them know they had to go on. A better day was in store for them, a new freedom, a new prosperity, a new happiness. There's a balance to love. Sometimes it's kissing the boo-boo. Other times it's reminding people that you have the strength, you have the power to get out into the world and make a difference. Christ said that to the children of Jerusalem. He said, I've longed to gather you together as a hen gathers her chick underneath her wings. And it's the spirit of divine mothering, a love that gathers, that shelters, that enfolds. The New Thought we teach we're all expressions of the divine, and that includes the Divine Mother. And if we had an ideal mother, that's wonderful. And we carry that love within us, nurturing and protecting, and we can extend it to others and to ourselves. Louise Hay says, love is the greatest miracle cure. Loving ourselves works miracles in our lives. So we want to honor the mothers among us, and we want to honor the mothering spirit within each of us. And that part that says to a friend or a family member, I'm here for you no matter what. That part that comforts a hurting child. That part that tends to needs of a pet or a garden or community. Now, if you're like me and you had experience with your own mom that was complicated, know that you're not defined by what you did or didn't receive. You are defined by what lives in you now, by the love you're willing to give and receive today. And dear ones, if you didn't get the love you deserved as a child, you can heal that hurt by keeping your heart open and by going out in the world and being the best love you can be. You are going to receive more love in your life. In Scripture, it says, shaken down and overflowing. You cannot outgive God with love. It's wonderful to receive love, but it's our deepest fulfillment is to give it. And we can always give more love. It's the supply that will never run out. Khalil Gibran, he said, the mother is everything. She's our consolation in sorrow, our hope in misery, and our strength in weakness. She is the source of love, of mercy, of sympathy, and forgiveness. The divine mothering spirit alive in every act of kindness, every gesture of love is what we celebrate today. So if your mom is still alive, make sure you take her out to brunch or at least give her a call. And if she's in spirit, take a moment to send her love. And if you had a complicated relationship, send her love anyway. See her in your heart's eye, receiving the healing and support she needed to be the loving presence for you that she wanted to be, that her soul wanted to be. And when you do that, turn it over to Spirit and go out in the world and become the most loving and supported person you can be. And then just watch. Watch how Spirit will awe you with how much you're loved, how much Spirit can rain down blessings upon you. Because, my friends, it's what we're here to do. We're here to witness the love and support of God made manifest in our lives through our dreams, our hopes, our love, and prosperity. We are here to be awed with how much Spirit loves you, how we are supported, how much we can make a difference. And now's the time for us to step up and step out and go out into the world and make a change. A new heaven and a new earth is what we're here to declare, what we're here to be, what we're here to witness. And we can do it. Spirit is counting on you. You're the miracle that God needs in this world at this time, and God isn't disappointed in you. God isn't discouraged by you. God is more inspired by your possibilities than it has ever been disappointed by your mistakes. So go out there and show the world how much you're loved and how much you can love. You will have the storehouses of heaven raining down blessings upon you. It's the truth. It's the truth in your life this morning. It's the truth in mine, and so it is. Thank you. Thank you.